What's going on, guys? Mystic Prun here, and today we've got a different video, as it's just me talking and a bunch of pictures. So, different video. This will be a Trackday video series episode thing, and it's basically a summary of my first track day. So, yeah, there isn't really much to say. Got there, we unpacked the van. I didn't feel grossly inadequate with all the kit I had, which I was quite surprised. I got there, I thought I'd feel really out of place, you know, like everyone would rock up and I'd feel like I was just scrounging about, but no, I unpacked the van. I felt pretty good with how I was and what was going on around me. So we got signed on, social distance briefing in the paddock. We had, at 9 o'clock, there were 3 sighting laps, so we went out and did the sighting laps. It was on the shorter circuit, the I believe it's the club circuit, the perimeter circuit, sorry, at Three Sisters. And we did 3 sighting laps. It was in the wet. I didn't have time to change my tyres, so I did them on my Metzler Drive Supercorsa style tyres, which was sketchy. But I got into it towards the end, so we did three laps, which took us up to about 9:15. Came in, the track opened then for open pit lane, so it was from about 9:15 to 1 o'clock, and then we had lunch to 1:30, and it was 1:30 till 5. The track was just open, come in, do as many laps as you want, go out, do whatever you want basically. So before lunch, like I said, we were using the perimeter circuit. I did 2 runs on my dry tyres of about 6 or 7 laps each. Never really got any feeling from anywhere. It was just like riding on rocks basically. So I wasn't very comfortable with it. Managed to get some decent speed going down the front straight, but again, wasn't really going anywhere near some sort of limit. So I came in, I changed over to the wets. These were wet tyres. This was my first run on wet tyres, so oh boy, that was enough of. Everyone said it's a big deal having a run on a wet tire. It just didn't bother me really. It was just another tire. You just start off slow and build up to where a limit is, and that's what I did. I started off slow, and I started building up, coming out, started getting a bit out of the seat at some points because it was just moving. I think I had a bit too much pressure in the tires, so they weren't getting warm at all because I didn't have warmers on, so. The tyres were just stone cold, so they were all moving everywhere, and I was out the seat a couple of times. I also had a bung in the bottom of the belly pan, because for racing the belly pan has to be sealed, so I had a bung in there. And because obviously if your engine blows up, you get fluid in it, and instead of going all over the track. When it's raining, you're supposed to take that bung out, that way your belly pan doesn't fill up with water. What did I forget to do? I forgot to take the bung out. So you can see on some of the pictures there's a huge stream of water coming out the back of the belly pan, which will become relevant in a minute. So I did one run on the wets. I was just about to go out for the second and it got red flagged because someone went down coming around the left-hander, the first left-hander on the perimeter circuit. It's a sharp 180 basically, first gear. He basically high-sided on exit. He was going really, really quick, so obviously too quick for the conditions. So I was just after that. I went out with someone who I met there. We had a bit of a chat, and I went out with them. He was following me. Did outlap, got a flying lap in. Felt pretty good. This was my second run on the wets, I think it was. Yeah, because just before the red flag, I'd been out and done 1 run, another 5 laps on the wets, pulled in. For a bit of a breather because I wasn't too happy, like I said, with being out of the seat. Anyway, the red flag came out. I went out with this guy. We did 1 lap. On the second lap, on the stone cold, dead cold, wet tyres, coming into the last corner, I'm assuming what happened is that, well, the tyre just let go. Basically, the rear tyre just slid out from under me, and I threw it down the road at 30 miles an hour. Not fun on your first track day. Looking at the pictures, we noticed a stream of water coming out the belly pan, which is when it clicked about the bung. But looking at the pictures, it was a particularly wet corner. That corner, it was always a bit sketchy, and I had a moment there a couple of laps before on the previous run, so I'd had the warning and I still didn't heed it. It was my fault, I was an idiot, but the theory that we've sort of come to the conclusion that the water come out the belly pan and caused the rear tyre to aquaplane. It was used wet, so the edges on it weren't too great anyway, but the theory is that it caused it to aquaplane and it just went, the back end just went, there was no saving it. So what happened then was I went down, pretty much contorted my neck into a whole bunch of different positions to try and stop my helmet smacking the ground, which I believe I did successfully. So that's that. And the bike slid pretty peacefully on its right hand side, did like a 360-degree turn on its foot peg, so it ground all the foot peg away. Brake lever guard snapped off and ground away, but in all fairness, it probably did save my lever and clip on that brake lever guard, so I've bought another one. And scratched up all the fairing and the engine casing. So what happened then? There was no fluid leaking, but of course I didn't have a foot peg, so I snapped off the rest of the brake lever guard that was sticking out. Well, at which point my dad turned up to have a watch, which was not the ideal situation when he comes walking into the paddock and he just sees your bike on the stand full of mud and your mum looking like she's had 3 heart attacks in the space of 10 minutes. So he came, we turned up, he ran me home because the track's only about 15 minutes from where I live. We found a big bolt. Obviously he ran me home with the foot peg that was broken. Found a big bolt, he just cross-threaded it into the into what was left of the foot peg at that time, the little nub. Obviously it doesn't matter if it's cross-threaded or not. There was no effort put into making it nice. It was just a bolt in as a foot peg basically, because that bolt stuck out and that bolt was my foot peg for the rest of the day. So in fact the cross thread probably helped, as it meant it didn't come loose throughout the day under the forces of my size massive feet. So anyway, we did that, we went back, at which point it was lunch, because I fell off about 11:30 and it took us about an hour to get sorted. So we got back and it was about 12:30, at which point put the foot peg on and it was brew time then. So I changed over from wet, sorry, to the dry tyres because the sun came out. It was baking hot sunshine now. The track had dried up like instantly. So they opened up the rest of the circuit for the full club circuit. So instead of going left in the perimeter, you went right to the infield, did the hairpin, and then came down to the S's. I was still changing my tyres from wets to dries at that point, so I missed the sighting laps, which made for a hilarious first lap when I nearly went the wrong way, but we'll gloss over that. And I got a good 30 laps in the dry, honestly. After that, it ran pretty much smoothly. Clip-ons were a little bit out of shape, so I pulled in, moved them out a little bit, wiggled them about a bit, loosened off everything, bounced all the forks up and down to straighten things up, and it performed admirably. There was a little wire dangling out, but it didn't catch on anything. I did put it back in the fairing, but again it kept falling out, so it performed really well actually. The bike, after the crank sensor replacement, started on the button even after it had been lied on its side. It started pretty much first time, put it in neutral, bang, fired straight up, so no complaints there. The only hiccup on the day was the guy on the seat, so yeah, no, the bike performed well. I managed to get a knee down on it, which was pretty cool, although I am lanky, so that does help, but I wore through my knee slider, which is pretty good for a first track day. Managed a 1:06, so I'm about 10 seconds a lap slower off the race leaders, or people who off Formula 600 winners, shall we say, at Three Sisters. So I'm about 10 seconds a lap down off that, which I'm happy with, to be honest with you, considering my lack of experience and general noobiness. Overall, well, yeah, there's 1:06, pretty good lap time. More through knee slider. Didn't use anywhere near the amount of fuel I was expecting. I used pretty much 3/4 of a tank, whereas I expected to run through tanks and tanks and tanks of fuel. So the bike itself felt pretty good. was a little bouncy going around some of the corners, which you probably saw from the onboard interludes I posted, so you probably saw that. I was out the seat a couple of times. Of course, it doesn't help when you, instead of putting your knee slider down, you're actually putting your leather on the floor, which I didn't realise at the time. So I started I wore a bit of the Velcro off my leathers where the knee slider attaches. So I'm going to have to adjust my riding style because quite clearly I am not in the correct position. So I've started doing that, moving things about on the bike to get more comfortable and to aid in adjusting the riding style. But anyway. My new fairings weren't ready from the paint shop. I was a little disappointed by that for the day, but to be quite honest with you, it's a good job they weren't, because it would have been back to the paint shop the day after. So I lost my train of thought, but whatever. I did about 40 laps in the day, which, considering which is pretty much relatable to what MotoGP riders do in a full day's testing. They do about 40 to 50 laps. So I was fairly happy with that, I think. Yeah, I think they do 40 to 50, I don't know. But 40 to 50 laps for someone who's completely out of shape on a track that requires a lot of body movement, I was happy with it, especially considering the morning that I'd had running about the town trying to find a replacement peg. So yeah, I got some onboard footage and was overall very happy. I did run on in the penultimate run. The run before my last run. I ran off at the last corner, which you can see on the onboard footage. I'll have a link to both the onboard footages in the video in description. But yeah, I had a bit of a run on. The grass was wet. I don't know how I didn't fall over. That would have been trifle embarrassing. But no, I pulled back on the track, looked up, and saw the marshal eating a sandwich in his car, just a sandwich halfway to his mouth open, watching me as I just rode very quickly back to the pits to empty out my leathers. So overall, it was a good first track day. I thoroughly enjoyed it, to the point where I've booked another one. In August, we are going to a different track called Blyton Park. It's a much more open, it's basically an airfield with some chicanes painted in it. Basically, it's similar to Derby, if you know that track over in the Isle of Man. The only difference is I think this has got a back straight that's about 3/4 of a mile long, so with a bit of luck I'll get out of third gear this time, whereas I didn't at Three Sisters. I was in third gear maximum. So I should be able to get sixth gear maxed out. I should be able to max the bike at Blyton Park, which is where I'm going. So I'm looking forward to that. I do hope you didn't hear that. Yeah, we're going to Blyton Park. Looking forward to that. So that's in August. My dad's coming with me. He's bought an SV Mini Twin, so he's coming with me on that. So he's just sorting that out and getting that ready for the track. And I need to get my bike ready for the track. Things that I have done to the bike since Three Sisters. Number one, repair it. I've bashed off the rest of the brake lever guard. Got a new foot peg from Harris. Loosened off all the front end, bounced it up and down, sorted all the front end out. So it's all nice and straight, because it was a little out of shape still after I'd done that. You could only do so much at the track. Number two, I've tweaked the suspension a little bit, added a bit of rebound damping, and made it a little bit, well, I'm going to make it a little bit softer, I think, but I've added a bit of rebound damping anyway, in the hope that I can stop it bouncing. So that's what I've done there. In terms of the handlebars, I've actually pushed the handlebars forward, because you can see from the pictures I make it look like small, basically. I make the bike look small. So I've pushed the handlebars forward in the hope that I'm getting some extra length. I've moved the foot pegs back and up as high as they will go, as far back as they'll go and as high as they'll go, because I pretty much was wearing through the toe guards on my boot. Now, sure, that might be because I have a bolt as a foot peg, so it might be a different seating position at the time, but either way, I've just tried to give myself as much space as possible under that. And the other issue I had is that when I did that on the left-hand side, I couldn't reach the gear lever because the gear lever isn't adjustable. So I've ordered a new gear lever from Harris, and I've contacted them. We had a good conversation. and they're sending over a gear lever that should fit onto my rear sets that makes it adjustable. This will also allow me to switch it around to race shift, I'm hoping. Well, that was pretty much in the discussion we had, so hopefully it'll be 1 up 5 down when I finish with it, which will suit it a little bit better. So in terms of repairs, like I say, I bashed off the rest of the brake lever guard. I ordered some new ones, but I don't know if they're going to be here for the track day. It says 8th to the 21st of August, and my track day is right in the middle of that, so could be any time. Don't see why it takes so long. They're in the UK, but whatever, they were cheap. I mean, brake lever guard, 9 quid for 2 brake lever guards is cheap. Okay, the average one is about 25 to 30 quid, and the carbon fibre thing goes for upwards of 100. It's a guard. Jeez, I'll get some alley and bend it round the brake lever for all that matters. Anyway, I've got some R&G engine cases, which are now covering the case, because obviously when I dropped the bike at the last corner, it slid along the handlebar, the foot peg, and then the engine case. So the engine case wore a bit thin. It's still good, still strong. The case is over that now, so that will be sufficient. I also added some crash bungs to the bike to hopefully prevent it getting to that stage anyway. So all R&G engine cases and crash bungs, not cheap. It was about 200 quid for the lot. It was not cheap, but it's going to be worth it. So, well, I thought, you know what, let's tally it up. So we've got 10 quid for the 10 quid for the brake lever guards, 50 quid for the crash bungs, 150 quid for the engine cases, so that's 210 quid for a crash. Then I had another 20 quid, well, 25 quid for the foot peg, so that's 235 quid. So altogether, a 30-mile-an-hour low side cost me about 235 quid. Didn't have to, it could have just cost me 20, but in order to get it back to the way I wanted it to get it and to keep it safe, 235 quid. It's not cheap. So what else have we done since then? One of the things that I didn't find as much of a big deal as I thought it was going to be was gearing. I thought I was going to not know what gear I was in and all that, but it just didn't matter at the end of it. I just picked a gear that sounded right. I didn't go very far in the rev range. I still had like about a third of the rev range to go, but as someone who's learning, you're not going to be right on the edge. But that being said, I have bought a gear indicator, so I stuck that to the dash. It's over the speed. Obviously, you don't need to read the speed when you're going, so I've stuck it over the speed in the hopes that it won't distract me as much, so I can have a quick glance down at that and possibly get the speed in the background. I don't know, but it's a Heeltech piece of equipment, Heeltech Gear Indicator Pro thing, much the same as my quick shifter is a Heeltech quick shifter. Heeltech do some pretty decent cheap stuff, so that's what I've got there. I've got that. I've got a front subframe which mounts the clocks. It's a racing subframe, so it's made of alloy basically, and it's got Zeus fasteners, as you can see on some of the pictures. The front of my bike is held on with 4 Allen key bolts. Basically, that will be replaced when I get the new fairings on. I'll put this subframe on the front, and it will replace those Allen key bolts with the Zeus fasteners, which are like quarter turn ping off fasteners, like I have on the belly pan. Much easier to use. So when I get the new fairing, that's what I will do with that. For now, until the new fairing comes, that's the way it's going to stay with the Allen keys. What else have we got coming? I think that's about it, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to get the wets changed. I have a spare set of brand new wets in the garage that I'm going to get put on the rims and set up properly. I'm looking at getting a generator and tyre warmers, and as an early birthday present I also got a easy up awning, because I bought a gazebo and it was one of them things that you pull out 50,000 pulls of scaffolding, and it was 7:30 in the morning. I was just looking at the back of the van and I just thought nah, so we ended up putting 2 poles out my wheels and basically sticking it to the back doors. It kept us dry, kept the bike dry when it lashed it down in the morning, but it wasn't ideal. So we've got a 24MX easy up awning that you just ping up, and that will be sorted like that, you see. So that's basically the shelter sorted. In terms of the actual other stuff, other pit paddock stuff, I'm looking at getting a generator and some tyre warmers, because it took me about 3 laps to get the tyres to a usable temperature, which isn't ideal. Because, you know, especially when you in an open pit lane, it wasn't too bad, as you could do as many as you wanted. But when you're running in groups and you've got like 30-minute sessions, those 3 laps are laps that you're not learning. You're just poodling around warming up your tyres. You're not learning anything there. So you've got to not get out there, not get on it, but get going, shall we say. Ride fast but never rush is the adage that I was taught. So looking at a Jenny and some tyre warmers. Other than that, that's pretty much all there is to know for this episode of Trackday 0, as it would appear, because I threw it down the road. So, yeah, any extra stuff that I want to do will be for after the Blyton Park track day. So, which I will have again some onboard footage from that. I don't know if it'll be in the same place. It might be on the tank. It might be at the back. I don't know if it'll be the same quality. I'm going to change the recording settings a little bit in the hope of it being a little smoother, because it was a bit jumpy. So what I did was I recorded it at 1080p 60 fps, which is good, but it means that you can't run the damper effect on it. So what I'm going to plan on doing is running the damper effect, which 720p 30 fps, but then instead of just uploading it direct to YouTube like I did, I'm probably going to put it through Premiere Pro and export it as a YouTube 4K video. See what I can do with it. I'll see what I can do with it. It just means that the first few onboard videos may differ slightly in quality and how they look. So just hold tight for those. Other than that, there really isn't much to say. It was a first track day. It gave me a lot of experience in every single aspect of a track day, from riding in the dry, riding in the wet, to crashing, to how to bodge things together so you can get back out on the track, to just how expensive crashing is, to having a laugh with the people there and your mum and dad who come, well, my mum and dad who were with me. It might be your mates if you're with you or whatnot, but they couldn't come obviously because it was COVID. But anyway, it was it was an eye opener. And that bike is just so fast. It's so far beyond what my talent will ever get to, and what it is, you see. So it's deep end, I believe is what we call it. Thrown in at the deep end, but I loved it. So I initially said that not racing at Darley at the end of the year would be the way I'm doing it. I am going to be discussing it, the logistics of that, with my parents at the end of the week, just to see what the deal is. End of next week, I think, because I may or may not still do that, depending on the situation. We shall see. But for now, baby steps. Get the Blyton Park day done, and see where we go from there. Hope you enjoyed this interesting, boring video of slideshow with some audio womble over the top. I'll try and make the next one a little more interesting. I've been Prun. Right, see you later.